Welcome to Design Santa Barbara. This week I'm joined by Santa Barbara residential designer Belanger. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. I have a few questions
Sure.
and our viewers would love to know about your trade and yourself.
Sounds great.
All right, here we go. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I've been here in Santa Barbara for about 12 years now. We came here in 2005. That was the year it rained all winter.
I remember.
And yeah, all winter. And the funny thing for us was we came from the Northeast, from Massachusetts. Our winters are a little bit colder. So everybody here is apologizing to us. Oh, I'm so sorry you just got here. It's 50 degrees. I'm like, 50 degrees? This is paradise. It's January. So settled into that pretty quick and really enjoy it. As I said, I came from the East Coast, so I was born and raised in Massachusetts.
Where in Massachusetts?
Right in the middle of the state. The second biggest city is called Worcester. And do you know Worcester?
Yes, absolutely.
There's a few who do. And I grew up in a little town just north of there. And all through high school, went to school in Massachusetts out in Western Mass, UMass Amherst, if you're familiar with that area. Did school there. And it was kind of interesting because I started there thinking I was going to do business and had second thoughts and shifted right over to design and kind of did that ever since.
So my next question is, what inspired you to go into the field of architecture?
It's hard to say what was like the very beginning, but I remember even as a kid, probably 9, 10 years old, I was just always drawn to houses. And we had, in the Northeast, you have a lot of older houses, and it was old houses that I really loved. There was another town adjacent to us that had this great street with all these big they were summer houses. So late 1800s, you would have your summer house, not like today, halfway across the country, but in 2 or 3 towns over where there was a lake or a mountain or something. So this was a little bit higher in elevation than Worcester. So Worcester's elite would build summer houses there. And so there was this row of just, fascinating, beautiful, old, late 1800s homes. And I remember as a kid just being fascinated by them. Victorian architecture, of all things, really captured my imagination. Something about all the detail and decoration to it. So I started designing. Probably 7th grade. I get out my graph paper and I draw. And I think my parents got a subscription to Architectural Digest for me. And I wasn't a very good designer. I would look at Architectural Digest and I'd see a new house or a room that I liked. And so I'd unroll my roll of graph paper. And this was a house that was always expanding. Because whenever I saw a room I liked, I'd have to put on a new wing. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I need the sunroom wing now. And now I'm going to add the Great Hall. Whatever I'd seen in Architectural Digest got a piece in this ever-expanding floor plan. It just, it never really left me. I was interested in it all through high school and did drafting classes. As I said, when I went to college, I'm not quite sure what happened there for a little while. I don't know if it was kind of like the 80s economic boom swept me up and I was like, I'm going to go into business. And so originally that was my intent when I went off to college, although I had applied to some design schools also. But within one semester, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Didn't want to change schools, applied to the design department, which was part of the art department there. And that was it. Into design, interior design, architecture, and
it's very nice you could continue your childhood hobby and interest all the way to adulthood. That's great.
Yeah, I still think about that big old roll of the expanding house when I sit down today and work on an iPad.
That's great. Next question is, tell us about your style. Every architect, every designer has a style. What is your individual style?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's one you get asked. I think anybody in design gets asked a fair amount. And my kind of boring answer is, I don't really have a style. My style, the way I like to think about it, is more about a way of working with my clients, in that I see my job less of taking a style I have developed and fallen in love with and kind of, repeat. I see it as sitting down with my clients and trying to understand what is their style. There's a role for me to play in this. I'm the expert, one hopes. that I can take what they're talking about that they may not really know how to articulate and listen and hear that and really try to find out, what do they love? What inspires them? When they see a certain piece of furniture or art or color or style more globally, what speaks to them? What kinds of rooms speak to them? I'll ask them, what's your favorite hotel? Was it a big grand hotel? Was it a little intimate hotel? Was it an inn? Was it an urban place? Because that starts to tell you what speaks to you, what you might want to live in every day. And so that becomes my goal. My style is to really understand what that person wants to feel and experience when they walk through their front door. And I want to pull all that together and create something beautiful.
So that's what all professionals do. I do the same thing. I
Yeah.
don't have any style in per se what I sell, but my personal opinion of what I like is a Tuscan style. I like those Italian beautiful items.
Yeah.
What is yours at your home?
My personal style, I think what I find most interesting is when you take a structure or rooms or shapes that are traditional in their sensibilities, their proportions, a little bit of their detailing, but not too fussy. And then you bring in elements that are more modern, that make it of today. Doesn't necessarily have to be purely modern furniture, but some modern furniture or accessories, some antique furniture, but with very simple lines. So you're kind of blending those two worlds. A house that's a recreation of ages past, very beautiful, very comfortable, very desirable for a lot of people. A house that's very modern and purely modern, same thing, can be very beautiful and finely detailed. But for me, personally, that's the style that I like best, when you pull those elements together and you create kind of this I think, really dynamic mix.
Beautiful. Very good. So Chris, so many fields have been impacted by advances in technology, as we have seen around. Do you use any new technologies in your work?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's interesting because design has been around for so long, millennia. People have been designing. And we still today do it at kind of a very basic level, where you have a piece of paper and you have a pen. You have a surface and something to mark it with. But at the same time, technology has moved forward and we have new tools to use. Where not so many years ago, maybe even 1 or 2 years ago, I would literally be pulling out a piece of paper and a pen and using it, and I still do. More often than not today, I'm pulling up the iPad with the Apple Pencil on it, and I'm able to do the sketching right there on the iPad. And what's remarkable about it is how much it mimics hand drawing. There's simple apps like this where you're just maybe marking up a drawing, a PDF set where you can go in. And then there's others where you really have pencil tools, pen tools, shading tools, highlighting tools, layers where you can layer on, just as if, you can see here, as if you've got a piece of yellow trace and you keep adding on and you keep working and working over it. So we find that really useful. But maybe the most exciting is three-dimensional. For us in our office, we've been designing in 3D for several years now. So when we're setting out to start on a new project, when we're creating our floor plans, which we think of as two-dimensional drawings on a sheet of paper, we're building a model of that house in the computer, from which we slice out a plan view and we slice out a section view. And the great thing about that is, again, on the iPad, we can come back in, and for ourselves, when we're trying to kind of get a sense of whether we're happy with the design we've come up with, and especially for our clients, we can show them what the house is going to look like. We can walk them around through it. We can put all kinds of levels of detail. This particular one that we're looking at right here is pretty simple. We just have furniture kind of blocked out and a few materials sort of hinted at. Not a lot of detail, but it's enough for a client to say, I understand how this plan is coming together. I understand
It's hard to
the
imagine
spaces.
for a lot of people.
It really is.
Takes that guesswork out of it.
It does. And we found clients get really excited about it because now they're uncertain, they're putting their faith in you, hopefully you're good, and they're nervous, they're spending a lot of money. This does give them a really good way to get past that challenge of translating 2D slices this way and that way into a three-dimensional experience. So we're super excited about this now.
That's a wonderful thing, yes. And it just amazing. It just, you can look at it before it's built, and if you have to make any changes, there it is.
Right here.
Before it's built.
Right
I've
here.
had instances, people built it and they don't like it, they have to redo it.
Exactly.
As you know.
Exactly. Well, and the other thing on a very practical level is we are now getting, as we develop the models more, we're getting into where we can take all the structural members that are hidden away inside the walls and the ceilings and put those in the model. We can identify conflicts. We can take HVAC, air conditioning and heating ducts, and we can model those and see how do they fit, or lighting. Make sure that we're not proposing to put a recessed light right where a beam goes through.
Absolutely.
So we start to get to do a lot of coordination on the computer, which is a lot easier than doing it out in the field, when you're cutting pieces out and tearing things out to
You don't have
solve
to
a
demolish
problem.
again.
You don't have to demolish again. We want to do that in the computer, very cheap.
Beautiful. One of the most important questions I have for you, it's what are your thoughts on the architectural style of Santa Barbara, and what is the recommendation of you to the new clients to match our historic city?
That's a great question, and I think it's really interesting right now because of changes that are happening in clients' desires too. Santa Barbara, some people know this, some people don't. The Santa Barbara style was a creation of the 20s. It was a creation of the post-earthquake rebuilding. It wasn't necessarily the historic style of Santa Barbara prior to that. It's clearly a style that resonates. It's clearly a style that people love to come here and see and experience and build a home here. Usually that's what they embrace. And I think the key to it, like anything, is do it well. A poorly done Santa Barbara style is a poorly done structure. It can have one or two of the hallmarks of the style, but lack the cohesiveness or the detail that makes it special. So, I think for anybody coming into Santa Barbara who wants that Santa Barbara style, I think the key is do it well, do it right, give it the detail that it deserves to make it special. Making design special, I think, is what every project should be about. And special isn't necessarily expensive. It's just unique or well thought out or personal, well detailed. All those pieces come together to make it special. And then, as we mentioned before, you can start to do some kind of fun things with transitional architecture where you respect the Santa Barbara style, but maybe you bring something that's a little bit more of today into it to make it more interesting for people.
That's exactly what it is, and very well thought. Thank you. It's truly fascinating. When we come back, I have some more questions for Chris. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. There is more Design Santa Barbara after the break. On this edition of Michael's Minute, I would like to talk to you about mid-century modern furniture. Mid-century modern is described as the period between 1933 and 1965, in which designers such as Eames and Nakashima used clean lines and futuristic materials to propel design into a post-war era. At Santa Barbara Design Center, you can see and feel a variety of mid-century inspired furniture, including our signature leather chairs and recliners with classical wood frames. Accent them with side tables, daybeds, ottomans for a slick, artistic look. Customize these pieces to fit your home perfectly. To bring mid-century modern style to your home, please visit us at Santa Barbara Design Center, 410 Olive Street.
Welcome to Rugs & More. We provide the West Coast with the most comprehensive collection of new, oriental, and antique rugs. Rugs are solid art investments and often become cherished family treasures. Our limitless inventory will warm up your home. Exotic or traditional, tribal or modern, our rugs weave stories through intricate patterns, compelling colors, and touchable materials. Number one in Santa Barbara for over 20 years. Visit us today at Rugs & More, 410 Olive Street in Santa Barbara.
Welcome back to Design Santa Barbara. Today we are having a great conversation with Santa Barbara residential designer Chris Belanger. Thank you, Chris, for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So I have again more questions for you, my friend.
Sounds good.
Outside architecture and design, I understand you have a fascinating relationship with cars. Can you tell us about that?
Sure, yeah. That also goes back probably to about the same age I was driving down that street looking at the summer homes. My grandfather was a big car guy, loved cars. He didn't have a big collection or anything. He wasn't a wealthy guy, but he loved cars. So from the time I was a kid, I would hear these stories of him and his brother basically carousing and causing trouble. They would, I guess probably my favorite was in the winter, this is probably in the 20s, they would take old cars, whatever they had, and they would ram them into snowbanks, the goal being to see who could get stuck the most often and the worst, and then they drag you out.
I like him already.
Yeah. But he would take me to car shows. So we would go to all the different local car shows that were there. And, I guess like houses, there was just something about it, the design of them really at first that spoke to me. We would go to car museums. We would do family trips. I would, in one museum in particular, I remember probably 10 years old, they had a car museum within a larger setting, and I studied the brochure. So I learned all the cars and the year and the make and what about them, so then I could give my family a tour through the car museum. Now, I don't know if it was a very good tour. It seemed really good in my head. I remember that. They may have wished I, maybe could cut it a little short or something, but I was just so passionate about it. So that's been with me for many, many years. Didn't really get to explore it until coming out here to Santa Barbara. The local Cars and Coffee group, which got started I think we're about 6-7 years going now. And I just happened on a Sunday morning, a few weeks after they started on Coast Village Road, to go by. I was picking up my mail, and there's 5 guys sitting on the wall there and some nice cars out front. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And they told me about Cars and Coffee, got into that, and just kind of haven't looked back since. So I have my own very modest car collection now of a couple of older cars that I really enjoy, and also go up now to Laguna Seca, which is just a nationally known or world-renowned track for racing, has been for many decades. So I've started taking my car out on the track, which is a lot of fun.
Oh, you're racing it?
Yeah, well, we're not racing full on, but we're on the track. We're with other cars. Technically, what we're doing is time trials. We're just seeing how fast can we go around the track? How well can we drive? It's really about learning how to drive. And to be honest, I don't feel like I really learned how to drive until I started going and doing the track driving, because you're pushing the car to the limits. How fast can I go through a turn? How quick can I get in and out of the turn? And how much speed am I going to carry down the straight before I terrify myself and have to hit the brakes? That's just a lot of fun. We have in Santa Barbara, we were talking about the weather, so this is a fantastic place for the car hobby.
True.
Doesn't shut down for 6, 7, 8 months during the winter as it would have back east. So that's fantastic. Any excuse to have the top down in the car and go out for a cruise is good by me. Pebble Beach, the summer car show, Car Week, really it's called now. Never had a chance to go and do that, if you're familiar with it. It's one of the preeminent world events for auto enthusiasts.
Very true.
So I love going up there, go to a series of different parties that are up there and events that are up there and car shows. And conveniently, a lot of the manufacturers will offer test drives. So one of the things I love to do is just get on that list for any car they're willing to offer. I am there. I will drive your car. So I've just had a lot of fun. Bentleys and the new Acura NSX, when that was introduced, they had that there. Some of the luxury cars, the Bentley, the new Bentayga, the big SUV that Bentley just came out with. So it's really cool. You get a chance to go there and just test drive all these great cars. The new Alfa 4C, which is a fantastic car. Got to drive that shortly after it came out. Just have a lot of fun with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're happy you moved to California.
Yeah, it's worked out pretty well.
Let's keep it a secret. Let's back to our theme. So when you're working on a new home design, tell us about your relationship with the client and the designer.
Well, as when we were talking about style, the approach is very much client focused. So the first thing is, in terms of the client relationship, is that process of learning what they like, what they're looking for, what they're trying to achieve. And sometimes it's thinking about what they say in a new way. Because sometimes what I've found is that clients will express a desire for something that's maybe 1 or 2 steps further down the design process than where we are right now. A simple example from several years ago, I had a client say, I want 3 bedrooms. So that's great. What are the 3 bedrooms for? I said, well, this is for us, this is for guests, and this is for my office. So is it going to be a guest? No, it's my office. Because they'd always lived in a house that had bedrooms and a room that was used as an office. So that was an opportunity where you kind of peel that back a little and you say, no, what are you really looking for is a master bedroom and a guest bedroom and an office. And the reason that's important is that you might put an office in a different place than you'd put a bedroom if you just thought it was another kid's bedroom or a guest bedroom. So understanding what they're really trying to tell you is important. So we do a lot of talking. With interior designers, I'm very much on the team approach to a project. A lot of times you get egos. People are kind of butting heads, and I want green, and I want gray, and I want this, and I want that. I don't have a lot of time for that. It's not the way I like to work. I want to come in and say, you know what? I come in with a certain expertise of things that I think I do well and can offer here. And you have an expertise, and you have an expertise, and you have an expertise, and probably all of us overlap a little bit. Like those diagrams that the name escapes me now with the circles, and somewhere in the middle is the overlap. That overlap, to me, is where some really amazing things can happen, because I can be thinking about a space in a certain way, and you come to me, or a designer comes to me and says, well, what if we did this, or I'd love to create this effect. Oh, okay. Let's shift the architecture a little bit. Or even little things like furniture. I hate the idea that an interior designer would have to shoehorn their furniture into a room that I drew. We got to bring that all together early on so we know it's going to work. So, I think throughout that process, all those relationships, interior designer, myself, the client, you sometimes have other specialties coming into it, audio, visual, theater designers, all different aspects of the design. It's a constant communication chain back and forth. Team approach, everybody talks, let's not fight, let's find out how to make this fantastic for the client.
One last question is, how can our viewers get a hold of you?
Easy. You can email me, chris@cbrdesign.com. You can give me a call, 805-252-8260.
Wonderful. I would like to once again thank Chris Belanger for being here. Please join us for more Design Santa Barbara after the break. Today on Michael's Minute, I would like to talk to you about fabrics. Fabrics are quite essential items for your upholstery and window covering, and we have a huge selection of them. We have Durally fabrics, Fabricot, my favorite, Cravat, we have our own house fabrics, and we have Ralph Lauren. For indoor-outdoor use, we have many different fabrics, and I would highly recommend you to come to Santa Barbara Design Center to see the largest selection of fabrics in town. Santa Barbara Design Center, 410 Olive. Today on Appraisals, we have this beautiful Mille Flori Qashqai carpet. It is 19th century, I would say probably 1870s, 1880s. It's in perfect condition. They used to be gifts of the heads of the tribe to dignitaries, to politicians, to rulers, and so on. The scheme starts at bottom, basically. Again, we have the beautiful grounds at their flowers, and in this case, tree of life starts getting roots. You have this beautiful ways that a tree of life grows in it and goes all the way to the top and blossoms. We have the beautiful cypresses. These are stylized and in beautiful symmetrical shapes. The other half is out here. We have this arch that creates that Moorish style architecture. Milleflori comes from his name. It means 1,000 flowers. This designs originally started in Mongol India and then Europe, and now we have it here. It goes cross cultures. It's a beautiful piece of art to view. Nowadays they're rare to find because not too many of them were made to begin with, and this one is in just immaculate condition, has original ends, original sides, and very little wear because they used to be hung on the wall most of his life. I appraise this in today's fair market value between $12,000 to $15,000. Thank you for joining us this week on Appraisals. See you next week.